Hello everyone, welcome back to Kimates. Today we are discussing about the topic the importance of water and hydrological cycle. We are well known that water is a very important natural resource which is required for every activity. It is known as the elixir of life due to its importance in the life of the living organisms. Do you know what are the characteristics of water? It's an inorganic, transparent, tasteless, odorless, colorless chemical substance which is the main constituent of Earth's hydrosphere and the fluids of all non-living organisms. About 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, but about 97% of the above is in the oceans. Only the remaining 3% is fresh water, but about 2% of the total water is tied up in the polar ice caps and glaciers. Thus, only about 1% of the Earth's water is available in freshwater bodies like rivers, lakes, streams, etc., and as groundwater, which is fit for human consumption and for other uses. Water is critical to all aspects of our lives. Without it, there would be no vegetation on land and no oxygen for animals to breathe. Do you know what are the importance of water in our daily life? Apart from drinking it to survive, people have many other uses of water. These include cooking, washing their bodies, washing clothes, washing utensils, keeping houses and communities clean. It is most important that the water which people drink and use for other purposes clean water. This means that the water must be free of germs and chemicals and be clear. That is, we need safe drinking water. Water that is safe for drinking is called potable water. Another importance of water bodies is that the global patterns of weather and precipitations are dictated by the movement, quantity, and temperature of water, both in the ocean and in the freshwater bodies. Since plants and animals have specific environmental requirements, temperature and rainfall determine whether the different kinds of species are able to survive in a given location. When rivers dry up, arid lands result. That is, a severe lack of available water to the extent of preventing the growth and development of plant and animal life. We know fresh water is needed to irrigate terrestrial crop plants. Normally, water for the purpose is drawn from rivers, lakes, etc. Irrigation scheme use channels and digs to direct water from rivers and lakes to crop lands. More than 70% of water withdrawn from nature goes to agriculture. Many rivers also provide fertile alluvium for crops, that is deltas. It is a deposit of clay, silt and sand left by flowing floodwater in a river valley, typically producing fertile soil. Another importance of water is that fresh water is needed for the life of aquatic organism. Water bodies contain important sources of food. Aquatic organisms have been harvested for a very long time and remain a chief diet of many human communities. Fish and other aquatic organisms need clean water to survive. If water is polluted, it not only destroys aquatic organisms but also the pollutants transferred to humans during consumption and biomagnify to an alarming level. Rivers have always been used by humans as a means of transport. They play an integral part in conducting trade and to bring in essential supplies. Freshwater bodies are also used for aquatic recreations like swimming, boating, kayaking, and boat racing. Another most important use of water is that it is used for power generation. Moving water bodies provides an important source of energy that can be used to generate power. Several countries use hydroelectric projects, the cleanest of power generating methods to generate electrical power. Large rivers are dammed and water is passed through pipes to generators, normally with a considerable drop in vertical water level to ensure maximum power output. Water is also used in thermal power station. Here, water is heated, turns into steams and drives a steam turbine which drives an electrical generator. After it passes through the turbine, the steam is condensed in a condenser and recycled to where it was heated. These are the most important uses of water in our daily life. Now we can define an important term, source water. Do you know what is source water? A source water refers to a sources of water that provide water to public drinking water supplies and private wells. There are two main sources of water, surface water and groundwater. Surface water is found in lakes, rivers and reservoirs. Groundwater lies under the surface of the land where it travels through the and fills the opening in the rocks. The rocks that store and transmit groundwater are called aquifers. Is there a need to protect source water? Yes, most of the important rivers and lakes of the world, which are the freshwater sources for hundreds of millions of people, are being seriously depleted or polluted. So, protecting source water can reduce the risk by preventing exposures to contaminated water. When we protect source water, the drinking water meet the requirements for EPA, that is Environmental Protection Agency. Also, protecting source water from contamination helps reduce treatment cost and may avoid or defer the need for complex treatment. There are many additional benefits associated with the source water protection, such as protecting water quality for wildlife and recreational use and protecting the availability and the quantity of water supplies. So, what do you mean by a source water protection plan? It is a management strategy designed to minimize the impact that human and natural activities have on the quality and supply of our water resources. Then, what are the aims for the source water protection plan? Firstly, identifying sensitive areas where water resource supply and quality are threatened. Then, accumulating scientific data about the quality and supply of current water resources. Then, up-to-date mapping and computer projections about future water resources. And putting forward recommendation to manage the impacts of harmful activities. That is, continuous monitoring of streams, lakes, rivers and groundwater to ensure the highest quality drinking water for public health, to minimize environmental degradation and to improve the efficiency in wastewater treatment. Now you can clear that contaminated groundwater is very difficult and expensive to clean up. Solutions can be found after groundwater has been contaminated, but this is not always easy. The best thing to do is adopt pollution prevention and conservation practices in order to protect important groundwater supplies from being contaminated or depleted in the first place. The groundwater is available in limited quantities and nothing works without it. Since groundwater is an important and vital resource for all people, it is important to protect it. Conserving the quantity of groundwater is essential. By simply reducing the amount of water that we use, our water supply will last longer. So, we must protect our water sources. Next, we can discuss the topic water cycle or hydrological cycle. It's an example for environmental cycle. Then, what do you mean by environmental cycle? It's a natural process in which elements are continuously cycled in various forms between different compartments of the environment, that is, different segments of the environment. We have already learned the different segments of the environment. These are air, water, soil and biosphere. That is, the water cycle describes the continuous movement of water on, above and below the surface of the earth. The mass of water on earth remains fairly constant over time, but the partitioning of the water into the major reservoirs of ice, fresh water, saline water and atmospheric water is variable depending on a wide range of climatic variables. The water moves from one reservoir to another, such as from river to ocean or from the ocean to the atmosphere, by the physical process of evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, surface runoff and subsurface flow. In doing so, the water goes through different forms: liquid, solid, ice, and vapor. This is a diagram for hydrological cycle. What are the processes included in the hydrological cycle? Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, snow melt, runoff, plant uptake, etc. Now we can discuss each process one by one. Firstly, evaporation. The transformation of water from liquid to gas phases as it moves from the ground or bodies of water into the overlying atmosphere. The sources of energy for evaporation primarily solar radiation. Due to solar energy, water from ocean evaporates. Next, evapotranspiration. It is the process by which water is transferred from the land to the atmosphere by evaporation from the soil and other surfaces and by transpiration from plants. That is, it is the sum of evaporation and transpiration. It also includes canopy interception. Do you know what you mean by canopy interception? We are all seen that in the rainy season, the precipitation that is intercepted by plant foliage eventually evaporates back to the atmosphere rather than falling to the ground. The next process is condensation. It is the transformation of water vapor to liquid water droplets in the air, creating clouds and fog. Do you know how clouds are formed? We have already learned evaporation. By the process of evaporation, some of the liquid water changes into water vapor. The air can only hold a certain amount of water vapor depending upon the temperature and atmospheric pressure. As the temperature decreases on moving from ground level to the sky. Now, the air is no longer able to hold all that water vapor. The excess amount changes from a gas into the liquid or solid. The process of water changing from a gas to a liquid is called condensation, and when gas changes directly into a solid, it is called deposition. These two processes are how clouds form. Condensation happens with the help of tiny particles floating around in the air, such as dust, salt crystals, bacteria, or even ash from volcanoes. Those particles provide surfaces on which water vapor can change into a liquid droplets or ice crystals. A large accumulation of such droplets or ice crystals is a cloud. We usually think of clouds as being in the sky, but when conditions are right, a cloud can form at ground level too. Then it's called fog. The next process is precipitation, the condensed water vapor that falls to the earth's surface. Most precipitation occurs as rain, but also includes snow, hail, fog drip, and sleet, etc. The next process is infiltration, the flow of water from the ground surface into the ground. Once infiltered, the water becomes soil moisture or groundwater. The next process is surface runoff. Runoff occurs when there is more water than land can absorb. The excess liquid flows across the surface of the land and into the nearby water bodies. The next process is snow melt. Snow melt is a surface runoff produced from melting snow. Moreover, plants and animals use water. This is all about water cycle. Today we learned what are the importance of water, source water protection plan, and hydrological cycle. Thank you.